Okay, episode 6. I guess you wonder where I've been. Okay, I've been procrastinating mostly. I've been thinking too. Been thinking about what to do, how to do it, how effective it is, stuff like that. Stuff like that. But here am I, back. A whole month done slipped by. So-called Black History Month. That's all right. That's okay. So I'm back. Recently, I took a train ride, a subway ride to Brooklyn to visit with my long time friend, Steve Standard, better known as STRAFE, the producer, songwriter of that great song, Set It Off. Still a classic. Yeah, we talked for a while. I got it here. It's coming up. But while I was on the train, I noticed that on every trip, in almost every car I was in, there was a crazy person. Somebody going a little bit off script, talking to themselves, sometimes violently, sometimes intimidating people. Wow, people are falling off. People are losing it. People are feeling the strain of 2023. Man, oh man. Here we go. All right, STRAFE, let's set it up.
Going to Vienna in April for all things still evolve as planned. It's a dance music conference.
Okay.
And it's like for 4 days, something like that. Vienna, Austria. So I'll be on a panel. I'll be able to spin.
Oh.
I'll be able to perform, so I'm going over there to share,
to represent.
Yeah, to represent the what it is I know, where I've been and what it is, what my opinion, about how, where we come from, how this all evolved and where we're headed.
When you say what evolved, you're talking about like dance music?
Yeah, dance music, because I come from being a musician and then I became a DJ during the 70s, and what I will be representing over there from a personal perspective is how I believe that the mobile DJs that brought disco to the hood deserve a lot more recognition for the transition from the dance band culture that was doing the dances and the community dance affairs before everything evolved to sound systems. And the mobile DJs were the ones that introduced disco, which was a transition, an evolution of dance bands and dance funks to a sound, an enhanced sound production that involved advancing the technology, which we went from mono to stereo to quad, and then now the sound systems were evolving as well. Now you have these. Once the mobile DJs were able to have these mobile, and some of them, they were really very big sound systems, but a sound system that could compete with the decibels that a dance band, with horns and all of that.
Yeah, compete and surpass.
Right. Yeah. So once their sound systems became an attraction too, that's when the mobile DJs started to take the gigs from the dance bands. And that's when the whole culture started, and the production and the industry and everything transitioned. But in the early disco, prior to what we have now with electronic-based creations, the productions were musician based, but they were session musician based. So you had excellent musicians that were now interpreting and engaging in the modern, or how should I say, the extension of what show tunes was for them, to a disco concept. So it was a. That's what I'll be mainly talking about, the whole foundation, and the core of what inspired me to create Set It Off. Being a musician that turned into a mobile DJ that went back into my writing bag in order to evolve from what hip hop was doing, because hip hop was another transition during the 70s, that actually brought. It was a rebellion to what disco was becoming, and how disco.
It also came out of the DJs, also.
Right, out of the DJ culture, but also it was a anti-disco retreat to the funk that founded disco in the beginning, because disco was becoming too syrupy, it was becoming too sweet, and it was becoming too
vanilla.
Yeah, well, and it was intentional, because that whole era was sort of a mind suppressant and an intentional transition back into a selfishness. But that wasn't the question that this whole conversation started. I was just talking about what my experiences in the dance industry, and what led to me creating Set It Off, and then what that meant, blah blah blah. Why I'm still doing dance music, or the music that I do now. Some of it is still definitely dance based and club based, but song based. And I truly believe that the conversation that I'm having in song is definitely.
Okay, here we go.
All right.
All right, Brother Earl, welcome to Harlem Muse.
Well, hello, and hello to you, Ken, and thank you for having me. And, I'm sure we're going to have some fun and drop some science and all that other good stuff, man. So have at it.
Okay, all right, cool. So, I just want to get a little bit about your background, your beginnings, in terms of what put you into this trajectory, and what got you here.
Okay. Well, born and bred in a specific part of Harlem called Sugar Hill, raised with my mother and father, had the full experience of a kid growing up in the 70s, playing basketball, football, ring-a-levio, freeze tag, and hot peas and butter, and all the stuff that we played, man. All the running games that we played, man. I'm from an era where even fat kids were in decent shape, man. You had to do what you had to do. Manhunt, RCK. I mean, come on, man. We ran. That's what we did. We ran, and if you didn't do any of those games, you had relay races. That's just what we did. So I grew up in Sugar Hill, mother and father, lived through the changing of a beautiful neighborhood due to crack and what was being, just the whole vibe, the poison that was being poured into our neighborhoods and such. So I saw both of those, survived it, but certainly had scars and losses from family and friends that I still love dearly to this day. As it relates to this continuing on, or how it helped me get here, as a kid, I loved hip hop. I was an MC along with a bunch of my friends, played music in the park, put the plug in the street light and said, yes, sure. I'm from that age where, your father was like, yo, what's all this hippity hoppity, and so I was certainly a poet, because at that point, as far as I'm concerned, being an MC was, MC is obviously a master ceremony, but the rhymes, it was poetry. And the only thing is, the circumstances that occurred that, made it come out for me later on. Okay, because you go to college and or you get grown and have a career, you can't focus on hip hop, at least, or things along that nature. At least you got an accounting degree, economics degree. It's time for you to make some money, boy. Unbeknownst to me at the time, the art was going to come out one way or the other, whether you know it or not. And for me, the art snuck out in my answering machine messages. Okay.
That's funny.
I would be producing little mini messages, man. I'd pick out a record and I'd make a short little message that coincide with the record. I can remember Faith Evans. She had a song, Soon As I Get Home.
Right.
So I made me a little message, and I'll call you back soon as I come,
DJ on the answer machine.
DJ on the answer machine, man. I remember.
That's funny. That's great, man. It's the art, it's the history, personal history, and the influence of the times, right? So, what were your early influences in terms of writing or in terms of poetry?
I would say, like most of us growing up, you had no other choice but to be influenced by Langston Hughes because it was his poetry we heard a lot of. Right. Okay, I didn't know how serious and dope it was that we read his poetry in school. Okay, I didn't know. Now, even though I'm friends with them now, I remember your aunt having a Last Poets album.
Right, okay? Definitely, yeah.
Okay, just like they had a Rudy Ray Moore album, and they had a Richard Pryor album, a Bill Cosby album, and a Red Fox album. So, that certainly was there. But when it comes to hip hop, there were certain groups that I just admired and thought they were good. I mean, how could you not like the Furious Five? How could you not like the Funky Four, Treacherous Three, Cold Cuss Brothers? I mean, I admired them. They were a few years older than me. So in hip hop, they were, for the most part, my big brothers, if you will. So I would say that they certainly had an influence because they were the best at what we were doing.
Yeah. So there's a lot of poetry, a lot of spoken word going on in New York right now in the different boroughs and different areas, right? And I can say that you have influenced quite a few people. You are now somebody that influenced people because you definitely influenced me in a lot of different ways. But what do you think of the poetry, spoken word scene now? What's happening now?
Well, for the most part, I enjoy it. Sometimes, I get a little concerned because sometimes it seems like they're kind of all learning poetry the same way. So sometimes they start sounding alike. And, that bothers me. I mean, I realize there's nothing wrong with being taught some foundational principles of writing and understanding writing devices and such. But there was a time, and, sometimes it feels like there's certain organizations that have influenced these young writers so much, they all sound similar. And I don't like that. I believe that poetry should be your own unique voice. There's nothing wrong with being influenced or inspired, but your poem should still be your inner voice, should still
represent you, right?
It still represents you.
Like you, for an example, you have a range of work. You know what I mean? You can go where anybody can go, you can go there. You know what I mean? That's because I think you've explored that aspect of yourself. You got to write, my opinion, right? Then you got to get past yourself. Then you got to go back to yourself. It's like sometimes the more personal it is, the more universal it is. You know what I mean? Right. Like if you get right down to that inner thing, it's going to relate to everybody rather than trying to relate to everybody.
I think I have a similar philosophy. First off, this life is going to give you a multitude of experiences, and it's going to put you through a multitude of feelings, thoughts, growth. And I think there is a way to look at those things that touch you inside in a way that other people outside can commiserate with. Okay.
Right.
Like for me, when I'm writing about some of those things, I make sure to include me because I never want to appear like the writer that's talking down to my listeners. Like when I'm telling you about this struggle or this experience, I include myself just to let you know that my feet are clay too. You know, I too am on this learning curve.
Right.
Okay. And I'm just sharing with you that experience, and hopefully it assists you on your learning curve.
Right.
So there is that dichotomy of internal to be accepted, external, finding yourself. And because even though we all are having these unique experiences, there's still a wholeness to those experiences. Everyone has loved, everyone is loved and
Right.
lost,
Right.
everyone has felt alone,
Right.
everyone has felt like their shit don't stink.
Right. 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 And
You
everybody
know,
felt like they should stink too much.
it sounds like it just stink too much. Exactly.
Yeah.
So you know, we all have experienced these things.
Yeah.
And I think when your writing can tap into those experiences we collectively share, you
Yeah.
know, folks
Yeah.
can vibe with you.
Yeah. So I'm gonna make a left turn on you a little bit, right?
Okay.
Because there's an aspect of your I'm gonna say your projection into the world, right? You as Brother Earl, poet. There is a unmistakably masculine image about you, right? It's really refreshing to me to see that. You know what I mean? And it's not contrived, and it's not, you know what I mean? You're actually, and maybe coming from where you're coming from, like, you know, Sugar Hill and the people that you've been around, and maybe a father within your within the house. But there's something that's so refreshing about that in this day and age with all of this, you know, feminization and everything going on. You know what I mean?
I'm not falling for this new millennium buck breaking. I'm a
I got
man,
you.
and I'm going to stand on that. I was very fortunate. I was raised by a Renaissance man, okay, and there was no substitute for manhood in my father's house.
I got
Period.
you.
Okay, and
Your influence in that community cannot be understated, in my opinion, right? Just, and it's not, like I said, I hate to back up myself, and it's not something that you're doing, like, this is not what I'm trying to do or whatever. This is just you know what I mean? And that makes it even more, um, you know, more better. You know, that makes it like, you know what I'm saying? And this is things, some of these things I just like to say, because I'm sure you're aware of it, because, you know, I know your feelers are out there, you know what I mean? So I'm just saying that I see you, brother, and I really, really, really appreciate it, man, you know? And, and a lot of other people, a lot of younger brothers, especially sisters too, because, you know, they coming at you, but, you know, they are, the brothers see that too as an example, you know what I'm saying? And I think it's, you know, it's just got to be said, man. I'm just
well,
saying.
I thank you for acknowledging it. And again, to me, it's a representation of how I was raised and the community I came out of. Okay. I remember very vividly the after school programs and community centers that I could go to as a young man and be poured into. And even I mention these guys quite often. There was a group of brothers that had Sugar Hill Sports Shop, and these were Muslim brothers, but they were, you know, they were about it. They did different things, okay, in the street, but they still had a community, a strong community understanding. They used to pay me to write articles for the Balalian News. Okay. They put me in basketball camp. Okay, like they had a strong like community tie. All right, they, even though they did things that were above board, and maybe they did a few things that were not above board. Okay, but what I knew is that they understood that community was important, and helping black boys figure out what they need to be doing was essential. So my philosophy is, you can't pay him back. All you can do is pay it forward.
Okay, as you can see, Brother Earl has a wealth of information and experience. This is actually just the first half of our conversation. I will bring him back later on, maybe in episode 7 or 8. But Brother Earl, and he does his open mic at Deja Vu on 151st Street in Manhattan. So come on through. You can meet him personally. You could spit some poetry and do your thing. So thanks to Brother Earl. Okay. Thought I'd come in front of the mic because this is a very interesting time in my life anyway. Last night I got a call from a friend of mine, a guy I used to work with. He wasn't a bus driver, but he worked, he built engines, he loved cars and mechanics, and he said that he was really being paid to do his hobby, something that he loved to do, and that was great. Not going to say his name, but we used to ride to work together from Jamaica, Queens. And at the time, we were working at a depot, the Amsterdam Depot, which is 129th Street and Amsterdam Avenue. And we had to get to work pretty early in the morning, like 6, something like that. That means we had to leave out maybe 4:30, 5, whatever, to ride our bicycles from Jamaica to Harlem. But he called me last night out of the blue. I had spoken to this brother in, I don't know, close to 30 years. I think he said 27 years, something like that. And he wanted me to know the influence that I had on his life, right? And that's an incredible thing, man. I can't even explain the feeling and how it made me feel, because it was just two brothers riding. We sometimes would talk, we sometimes wouldn't talk. He was a much better rider than me, and I recall the time that I think he left me on First Avenue because he had to get to work a little earlier than me. And I think those hills were kind of killing me, man. When we got off the 59th Street Bridge, we had to take a ride up. And it's a hill. And I'm famous for not liking riding up hills, but he was like, sorry, brother, I got to go. And we just laughed about that. But it was just amazing that all these years later, he got his wife to find me on Facebook, because he's not that much. And then she called me on Facebook and told me who she was, and at first I didn't remember his name, but then his voice, and then the talking, it came back, and we started to reminisce and laugh, and he just said just me, my presence in his life made a tremendous difference, and he still refers to those times for inspiration and for just to make contact with that time and the feelings. And I gotta tell you, it was amazing. It was an amazing thing. And I have a big birthday coming up, giant birthday. I say big because the number is big. And also, it's just a significant marker and just being alive and being well, and being able to do, what I do on a daily basis. And it was just an amazing thing, man. You never know how your being or what you say and do influence people. And it's just amazing, man. We kind of reconnected, but it was just beautiful. I just wanted to share that before we roll out of here on this 6th episode. And I'd like to thank STRAFE for giving me that interview, and wish him well over there in Europe when he does his thing. And of course, real Brother Earl, a great poet and writer and entrepreneur and mover in the Harlem community and New York in general. I'd just like to thank them both. And close out this episode of Harlem Muse. I'll see you next time.